Hi, my name's Dee Series and I'm one of the Becker County Master Gardeners. Today we're going to be talking about labeling in the garden, or more appropriately, knowing what plants you have in your garden. There are many reasons why you might want to label. You might be of a certain age and kind of forget what you've planted. Some of us are there. You might just kind of be an information junkie like me. You might really want to know or to show people what plants you've got. You might have too many similar plants. For example, a lot of people like hostas, and there are many, many, many hostas, so it's kind of nice to know which ones you have. Some of us who garden tend to transplant or move or bring new plants home and put them in the garden, so sometimes it's difficult to know what you've got and where you put it. So if you plant a lot of things in the late fall, some of us go to plant sales. If you plant a lot of things in the late fall, next spring, when your garden starts to come up, you might not remember what you've put there. And also, probably most important, is if you start to have pests or problems or diseases with your plants, Master Gardeners will be much more helpful if you know exactly what plant you've got when you come in with a question. Many pests and diseases are host specific, so it helps us a lot to know what plant you've actually got. So, down to labeling. There are a lot of ways to label. For me, when I transplant a lot of things, or when I hope to transplant something, or when I plan to split something, I usually use utility flags. This makes for a nice temporary marking. Some people might use sticks or plastic utensils, various different things you can use to temporarily label something. I have one bed where when I find wildflowers growing elsewhere, I transplant them up in that area. And so for that I use the utility flags as well. If you have a permanent plant living where it's going to live for many, many years, you might use special garden markers that are weather resistant. If you use just a plain magic marker, for example, or a Sharpie, they tend to fade and wash off. But if you use a garden marker that says it's rated for weather and to stay many years, that's probably your best bet. Some people use metal plant markers. I have a small portable printer that I really like, and it comes also with weather-resistant labeling tape. And I have several of these that have been out in the garden for 3 years or so. And this is very handy. You can choose different fonts, different styles, different sizes. So it's really handy for me to do my labeling with that. Now sometimes you might not want to label right in your garden. And for those times, for example, if you have a vegetable garden or if you have an annual garden that changes all the time every year, you might not want to put markers in there. Or if you have an area that's kind of naturalized, or you just don't like the look of labels in your garden, you might want to use instead a map. I have one map here of my rain garden where I just marked out where I planted various plants. And then when I go to the garden now, it's very much naturalized and they're kind of spreading and doing their own thing, but I still know what's in my garden. Another thing I do with my vegetable garden is every year I make note of where things are in the garden so that I can rotate my crops and therefore kind of confuse the pests and the diseases a little bit. No matter which technique you use to label your plants, it's very important to have as much information as you can about your plants. Master gardeners are trained to use Latin names. That way there's no confusion. That's like using somebody's legal name versus their nickname. We all know exactly who we're talking about when we use the Latin name. So with that said, have fun in your garden and hopefully you'll know what plants you have there.